it says meeting.
We'll give a,
I just got the message that the meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
Me too.
Yeah, I did too.
Well, let's see if it, okay, that's helpful.
You still on?
There might be some latency on that too.
That's right.
well, there is a 20-second delay on it,
Aha.
supposedly.
Oh,
Okay, so I think that,
The 20-second
and
delay is
so-
censorship.
well, we won't see it. But I think those people who've subscribed may see it. I don't know that those who come in just for this one will. Because I'm seeing the same issue as last time.
Yeah, it could be.
Anyway, it's,
Anyway, are
we
we?
will have it, we'll have a nice tape of this.
Can you hear me?
Yes, softly.
Okay, because I just got this new tablet and
It's fine.
all I can see is Walton, one person at a time.
And afterwards, I'll show you how to see everybody.
Oh, don't worry. I just wondered if you could hear me.
Well, on a tablet, you won't see everybody at once anyway, but
But yes, you can. If you press in the upper left-hand corner with your finger, you'll get two
Gallery versus speaker.
little things that are down below. One will give you the gallery view.
yeah, well, you can overload the gallery view, particularly on a tablet or a phone.
Yeah, but then you can scroll left and right.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, I don't see anybody else on the way in at the moment. And
I can see one person at a time only. Whoever's talking, I can see.
Good.
okay, well, that should work for you. In which case, I guess we'll call the meeting to order. And it's what, 7:04 p.m. on September 1st. Our first thing we'll do, and that is, as is typical, we'll ask for a moment of silence for people who have passed away in the past month, and hope we'll try and scroll their names on screen as we do this. Well, thank you all. I think that's a long enough moment for now. I heard a phone ringing in the background. It might be a good idea if we muted everyone, and as
Or
you're called
if
on to
everyone mutes
speak.
themselves. It's easier for them to unmute if they mute themselves.
Yep. So when it's your turn to speak, remember to click the unmute button so that you'll be heard. All right, next item of business is approval of the minutes that were distributed to everyone from the 4 August meeting that we held. And so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes, and that it can be anybody. Raise your hand or speak up if you
So
like
approved.
to.
So
Good. Okay. We have a second also, I think. Okay.
Second.
Well, we certainly have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or corrections anybody would like to make? If not, I'm not going to try and poll for positives from everybody. I'm going to assume that we all agree, and we'll declare the minutes approved. That brings us to my announcements in the order of business. This is the first meeting of the 2021 Residents' Council. That's a tongue twister. This meeting is being held and recorded by Zoom, as you know, and it's also available and recorded on YouTube and should be available right afterwards, if not right now. We'll also make these available to channel 972, and they will be showing some version of the minutes, perhaps even a combination of the two. Might I ask people to be sure and mute at the moment? I hear multiple sounds. I think there's multiple mics open. And okay. And the meeting will be available on the 2 websites and on channel 972. There's lots of ways for people to view it. We're going to continue to hold monthly meetings on the first Tuesdays on the same basis as tonight until such time as we can meet together in public. One difference from the public meetings we used to hold in the auditorium, we used to have an open question and answer session at the end. That's not something we're really able to do at this point because we're not wide open to the public. But I do invite people hearing this who may have questions and comments they'd like to pass to the council. That I suggest you get in touch with any council member and pass along your questions or comments, and we'll entertain them. Or you can also use the council communications form available on the ccichildstown.org website to send comments as appropriate. That's for everybody who's not a member of this council, but who's watching this in whatever form, whether recorded or live. Next item, of course, we posted the election results and committee assignments of the new council in multiple places. You'll be hearing from the old and new members as we hear the committee reports tonight. We have one new change to announce, which not everybody's heard. Charlene Passmore resigned, and Betty Elder, the next vote getter in line, is taking her place as chair of the housekeeping committee. So let's all welcome Betty. And I see Betty.
Welcome.
Thanks. We'll see.
Now, since committees normally do not meet during the month of August, the transition month for the council, the committees won't be giving reports on their meetings unless they happen to hold one during this session, which we normally do. But instead, we're asking each committee to talk about their ongoing mission, what their mission is, and as appropriate, what activities and challenges they see as for the coming year, as we hear briefly from each committee as we go through the meeting. Also, another announcement, which this is for everybody listening, including TV audience, YouTube audience, and so forth. We're looking for a parliamentarian to help out with the Residents' Council. We've been without one for the past year, and although several of us have a fair knowledge of parliamentary procedure, it would be nice if we had a real parliamentarian to step in and keep us in line and make sure we follow the rules as we should. We've had one in the past, but our last parliamentarian resigned, and now we're getting along on our own devices. If there's somebody out there who'd like to volunteer, we'd love to hear from you. One more item that's come to our attention very recently is that the Charlestown senior staff has been receiving some hate mail, some obscene mail and hate mail. And please, we want to stress for all residents that's the worst way to deal with a problem. If you have a problem, please don't hesitate to bring it up. We welcome hearing about problems. The administration certainly does too. But be open about it. Tell what your problems are. Tell what your solutions are if you have them, and they'll certainly be considered. If you're anonymous, you won't get much credibility for filing hate mail or obscene mail because you don't like something that's going on. So please be civil. We're on the council side, we're all volunteers, and I think our administration is doing a marvelous job. And sure, they may make a mistake here and there and not find the best solution to every problem right away, but they're trying hard, and we believe in them here. Before we're through, we'll hear from Heather with her comments, but I won't have to call for those now. The next item in the agenda is the mission moments that we take some time for with each meeting. Pat Kasuda shared a few mission moments that are appearing in the September Sunburst. I haven't seen it yet myself, but I have what was submitted. And so I'm going to acknowledge a few of residents that are worth acknowledging tonight. When Pam Steiner, Director of Finance, was faced with giving up Zoom bingo at the beginning of the coronavirus crisis, some residents were rather familiar to us. Mimi O'Donnell and David and Betty Elder stepped forward to jump right in and organize not only the game details, but even assembled home-baked goodies for limited numbers of prizes for the bingo. And the
That
bingo has
was
been
Mimi.
running well.
We take no credit for home bake.
wonderful.
Okay,
Well,
Mimi gets credit for the for the home baked goodies. And Connie Andrews jumped in to help identify bingo winners too, to help keep track of things. So there's people who are really helping the morale in the community and jumping in with the popular activity. And we thank you all for doing it. Another one that's been singled out in Mission Moments this month, Janelle Douglas and her intrepid volunteers in the archives are singled out for all the work they've been doing with the archives. Up to now, they've digitized 85% of the paper and turned it into digital materials, which makes it a lot easier to search for and access former club notes, organizational histories, various newspapers and flyers and so forth. There's quite a resource there in the archives for people who are interested in the history in the past, what's happened here in the past. And Janelle and her team have been doing a marvelous job and doing some fundraising too, which has kept them quite solvent. Like many residents who've used downtime to downsize, Janelle has found digitizing made it possible to reorganize the archives office, getting rid of file cabinets and bookcases, and that in turn opened up more space to use the desktop computers as they research history there. So that wraps up Mission Moments for this month. We'll have some more next month. Pat Kasuda does a marvelous job of assembling these. And with that, I'm through with my comments. I'd like to pass it on to Pat Rudolph, who will tell us, give the Vice President's view, and at the same time, the view of the committee she's organizing. Pat, it's all yours.
Thanks, Paul. So I'm taking this opportunity to update everybody on the process of filling the expected vacancy on the Charlestown Board of Directors. So Charles Denton will be stepping down, and we've begun the process of finding a slate of candidates to put forward. They go first to the administration and then eventually to the Board of Directors Governance Committee. And they will ultimately choose the replacement for Charles. So in accordance with our policies and procedures, Walt has put together a committee. The committee consists of me as chair, and also Jackie Graham, Jean Eichenlaub, Charles Denton, and Phyllis Lansing. So if anybody has questions or ideas, that's the committee, and we're happy to hear from you. Our first job is to find candidates. So we're asking everybody to think about it. Maybe you would have the talent and the desire to serve the community in this way. And if you don't, maybe you know somebody whose name you would put forward. So think about it, look around, see if there isn't someone that you would recommend. And you can put those names forward by contacting me or any other member of the committee. Now, we can't put, hope I may be doing wrong when I say this. We can't put contact information on anything that's publicly posted, but I'm going to say my phone number. So it's 410-314-9632. 410-314-9632. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Walt.
Thank you, Pat. You might mention that you've got some fairly tight deadlines to come up with the first generation of this. Would you say a word there?
Yes. The final recommendations need to go to the Board of Directors by October 2nd, which puts us in a bind. Our deadline for applications is September 18th, so that we can then have time to appropriately review the application. So September 18th, that's the deadline for applying. Thanks, Walt.
Yeah, and you've given good instructions on what people have to do when they apply, being a letter going to everyone. So
Yes, there'll be a letter coming out. There's also information posted on the CCI Charlestown. And if you prefer a hard copy of our application information, let me know. I'll print one out for you.
Great, thank you. Next person up for the secretary's report is Hope.
Okay.
And, Hope,
At the August work session, the council agreed to make a $100 contribution to the Benevolent Care Fund to honor our 2019-20 President Ann Erfel. And that's my report.
okay, thank you. Next in line is our treasurer's report with Ron Diabro.
Thank you, Walt. Closing balance of the council account at the end of July was $2,090.56. We had no income in August, and we spent $156.55. Thus, the account balance at the end of August and the end of the fiscal year is $1,934.01. Committee chairs are reminded, please, to send me your budget requests for the new fiscal year, and to let me know if you have no budget requests, or to let me know if you have no budget requests that you will not be asking for any money. Thank you to those who've already done so. Please send me the requests or notice that you will not be making a request by September the 25th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. And now we'll turn to the committees and run through the committees in alphabetical order, which means the first person up for the Benevolent Care Committee is Jean Eichenlaub. Jean, you're on.
Here are some updates for September, which is BCF month. The telethon for Benevolent Care is scheduled for Wednesday, September 16th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on channel 972. It will include entertainment, BCF testimonials, way to give information, prizes, giveaways, and more. Vendors are being solicited for sponsorship of the telethon for Power Hours to match donations from residents. A virtual treasure sale was held on Wednesday, August 19th on the Charlestown Treasure Sale Facebook page. Viewers could see photo albums of items for sale and marks sold on anything they would like to purchase. It was open to residents and the public with proceeds to benefit Benevolent Care. Also, it is there are some pictures back up there, and they are available to purchase the furniture. The BCF campaign letter and pledge card have been updated for 2020 and will be delivered by Philanthropy to resident package shelves the first week of September. Employees will receive donation information via email, and the board will get a mailed letter signed by Rich Grove encouraging them to donate. Treat of the Quarter is also in September, so if you have ideas on what we can give, please let Patty know. A grant request, PNC has approved a grant request for BCF for $7,500. Cars for Care year to date, 8,700 raised, 12 cars donated, 8 sold to date. And the Benevolent Care Foundation Board will meet on September 9th to review strategic plans for BCF.
Okay, thank you, Jean. And Eugenia is here and she's helping Jean with this committee too. Next in line is the Communications Committee. Did I see a hand raised? Oh, okay.
Yes, a question, please.
Yeah, question, Bob.
Question for Jean. Can she comment on the success of the virtual furniture sale as to what happened as a consequence of that?
How much
was sold?
The last that I had heard was pretty much everything was sold that was on there. And I believe Patty said it was $1,600.
$1,600, thank you.
And there, like I said, there are some things on Facebook again. And some of them are very unusual. And they will probably be opening the stores by appointment only.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the Communications Committee. And-
Ron,
Oh, go ahead.
Jean, what is treat of the quarter?
if you donate up to $240 a year, then Benevolent Care will gives out to donors who have donated that much, roughly it's $20 a month, a thing that is put in the cubby, or actually there's a card that you hand it back to the desk. But the treat of the quarter, the last treat was popcorn. And before that, candies.
Cookies.
And so it depends. Sometimes it's candies or popcorn, or cake. Sometimes it's something else, like maybe a little notebook or something like that. But it is a quarterly
Okay,
gift.
okay,
Jane,
thank you.
it's going to be chocolates this quarter. And Patty Santoni tries to use local vendors wherever possible. And she's getting that from a chocolatier in Catonsville.
Good.
Any more comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to the Communications Committee, and our new co-chair, David Elder, I believe, is giving the report. David?
Hi, I'm David Elder, the newest member of the Communications Committee and the new co-chair. The Communications Committee did not meet in August. Our goals are, what more should we do as a Communications Committee to promote Mine Erickson? And how can the Communications Committee better promote the Residents' Council? We need to focus on maintaining, upgrading Wi-Fi. We as a community are using and depending on Wi-Fi more than ever. On September meeting is scheduled for September 28th at 2 p.m. with the website committee proceeding at 1 p.m. Look forward to seeing you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dave. Let me remind you, if you're not speaking, to keep your speaker muted. We're picking up some sounds and can't really tell where they're coming from. So unless you're actively speaking, please keep yourself muted. Next up is the Conservation Committee. Anna Marie Girochi will tell us what's going on. Anna Marie here? No, I guess she isn't. Well, in that case, we're going to ask one of our secretaries to read her written minutes for the community, to replace her tonight. Is
Want
this
me
a
to do that,
meeting?
Hope?
Sure.
The goal of the Conservation Committee is to help our residents to be good stewards of the earth by finding ways that we can conserve by following the 3 R's: recycle, restore, reuse. We do that here at Charlestown by informing the community of ways to do this, by publicizing it through the Sunburst, 972, and posters in the various dining rooms. During this pandemic, our efforts have been curtailed because with the food delivery, there is so much trash that the administration has stopped recycling. We hope to be able to resume this worthy enterprise as soon as we move towards a resumption of normal activity. The Conservation Committee did not meet in August. We will have a Zoom meeting on September 15th at 2 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Mimi.
Welcome.
Well, I know Bob Caulfield is here. The Dining Committee is up next.
Thank you, Walter. Due to the COVID-19, our committee did not meet physically as scheduled in August. During the month, the chair consulted with all 20 members of his committee and asked them to continue their service during the next year. We asked for their thoughts concerning better ways to communicate at future meetings The chairs continue to talk to Ken Zahn on a weekly basis. The challenges facing dining services now and in the immediate future are significant. They are trying to improve our meal experience and get us to the new normal. Our committee must play a role in this effort. We need to understand the problems, offer suggestions, give them feedback, and help our fellow residents cope with what is going on. There will be no meeting in September, but we are considering a meeting in October. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. I'll mention that, of course, the new hot meal delivery started today, and Hope and I received our meals about 6 p.m. tonight. You all may have your own experience, but it seemed to work well.
How did it go?
Seemed to work well. The food was hot and pretty good.
Food
Anybody
was
else want to chip in?
absolutely not what I ordered.
Uh-oh.
Completely in contradiction to what was on the form.
Uh-oh. Well, things of growing pains to be worked through.
Work in progress, yes.
I got mine at 4:30 and Ken delivered it.
Oh,
Oh,
my
my.
God. You must be known.
Yes, I must be special in some way.
I think so. Any other comments on dining committee? Well, then we'll move on to the finance committee chaired by Gordon Pichet. And I see Gordon here.
I'm here.
Good.
Okay. The Finance Committee met via Zoom on August 25th with Executive Director Clara Parker and Finance Director Pam Steiner. 12 committee members participated. Pam Steiner presented the occupancy and financial reports for July. Independent living, 95.9%. Assisted living, 94.4%. Memory care, 91.7%. Skilled nursing, 80.9%. Independent living occupancy improved slightly in July due to 3 settlements and the additional 90-day billing being turned back on due to move-out restrictions being lifted. The occupancy levels at skilled nursing continue to be impacted by the need to maintain the COVID unit and the discontinuation of double occupancy rooms. Excluding these items, skilled nursing occupancy is north of 95%. July operating revenue of $7,021,000 was $563,000 below budget. This was due to occupancy and revenue generating services such as housekeeping, transportation, catering, etc., being limited due to COVID. Operating costs were $232,000 above budget, resulting in an operating income of $332,000. That's $331,000 below budget. Higher operating costs were due largely to COVID-related payroll and supply costs. Non-operating income for July of $161,000 continues to be above budget, largely due to unrealized gains in the investment portfolio. Cash flow has been impacted by the reduction of occupancy and entrance deposit cash inflow. Ms. Steiner mentioned she has been working closely with the Board of Directors Investment Committee to manage cash appropriately during the pandemic. Regarding restricted funds, 14 residents received benevolent care assistance. This number is expected to rise over the next few months. The committee discussed the list of suggestions of projects for the 2021 budget. However, with the COVID-19 situation, it is now a wish list, hopefully for 2022. Items on the list will get done as time and dollars permit. The next committee will meet September 29th, most likely via Zoom again.
Thanks,
That's all.
Gordon. Next up is the Grounds Committee. Is Mike Rose here? I don't
Yes.
see him on screen. Oh, he
He's-
is. Okay, good.
He's on via phone.
Ah, okay. Well, Mike.
Okay,
have
can you hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes,
Oh,
good.
great. Yeah, I'm sorry that I'm late. I kept punching in what I thought was the right code and it just wouldn't let me on. So thanks to Hope, here I am. We have not met as a grounds committee yet. We have a Zoom meeting scheduled for Tuesday, the 22nd of September. Pretty much everybody on the committee wants to stay on the committee, and there's one new person who happens to be about 2 doors down from me who's also shown a great interest in it. So we're going to try to pick up some of the issues that were left over from Eugenia's time, and one would be the algae in the lake and things like that. But we'll get to those in the Zoom meeting, I think. So we have not met yet.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Next up is the Health Services Committee with new chair Mercy Izquierdo-Whitaker. And Mercy, can we hear?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm going to read my report. The committee did not meet in August. However, I've communicated with continuing committee members and recruited 2 new ones. And I have been in contact with the director of the medical center, Dean, to offer our continued support and collaboration to promote the health and well-being of our residents. And throughout the month of September, the emphasis will be promoting the importance of flu shots and the containment of COVID-19 by following the CDC guidelines. The established liaison activities between continuing care and independent living will continue, as well as the eventual pickup of unused unwanted medications. And the cooperation between the Safety and Security Committee with their falls prevention program is a priority. Our next meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday, the 8th at 11 o'clock Zoom. Thanks.
Thank you, Mercy. Next up is the Housekeeping Committee with our newest member, Betty Elder. I don't know if she's had much time to get her feet on the ground, but Betty, tell us what you can.
Okay, well, thanks to Hope and finding out a report from Charlene, I'm going to read this and just kind of tell you what I have here. It says the Housekeeping Committee did not meet in August. The focus of the Housekeeping Committee is to help housekeeping keep Charlestown clean. I'm assuming this has to be our public areas, the public restrooms, rooms that, we would have in the areas here. Hopefully people are keeping their own residence clean, and that's none of our business. Okay, the next one is the Housekeeping Committee has 14 members who usually inspect this particular areas. I've been in contact by way of emails and notices and a couple phone calls to former members. Most everybody has agreed to stay on. We need a few more, and I'm working on that next. Our next meeting will be a Zoom meeting on September the 18th at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
Next committee is the Legislative Political Committee with its new chair, Pat Payne, a committee certainly of interest this year. So Pat, what have you got to say?
Okay, well, I'll just start with the basics. The committee didn't meet in August, but we will be meeting again on September the 9th. And I have some good news to report.
Oops. Mute.
No, I'm not on mute.
Okay.
You dropped out for a second.
Yeah, I'm not on mute.
Okay.
We have good news to report. I don't know if you all know that the committee drafted by Bill Miller sent a letter to Baltimore County councilmen about the water line on Maiden Choice Lane needing replacement. Are you aware of that? Well, we got some good news from the county that it's in the capital budget. The preliminary drawings have already been done and it is on its way. So success on that. Now, the next step, of course, of looking at what we're going to be doing, the key issue we're dealing with right now is voting in the Maryland presidential election. And there's a lot of confusion about what the requirements are and what the steps are that you have to take to be able to vote. So we are in the process of working out informational materials on early voting, mail-in voting, location of early voting sites, where the ballot lock boxes will be, and election day polling will be separate from early voting. We're going to have a representative from the Baltimore County Board of Elections join us a 972 tape presentation on all of the facts related to voting, early voting, and all of these other issues. And so that's going to be happening within the next week. Now, one of the key things we're thinking about and talking about is ways to assist Charlestown residents with transportation, possibly to early voting sites, and if allowed, volunteers to carry completed ballots of residents to the ballot drop boxes. We don't know if that is something we'll be able to do. We're going to get clarification when the Baltimore County representative from the board comes to see if we can actually help people out by taking their sealed envelopes and stamped and put them in the lockbox, saving them and having to make a separate trip. So this is going to be a major focus when we meet on the 9th. We're working on it already. The next thing we'll be looking at is preparing for the 2021 session of the Maryland legislature. And of course, it's going to be interesting because so many pieces of legislation were left hanging because of the cancellation of the session midterm. So we are going to be reviewing what the committee was supporting last year and whether we want to continue to support them, as well as to look at the legislative agenda that's going to be coming up. We also have some federal issues we're looking at. One you're probably well familiar with Ann McKay is the proposal in McConnell's, if there is a second CARES Act, for immunity for nursing homes for anything that occurred during the pandemic. It's a very, very grave concern because nursing homes are not always highly professionally run. So that kind of immunity could be very difficult on all residents. So they're tracking that. And she's also taking a look at federal legislation related to Medicare and Medicaid covering the cost of COVID tests. So that's basically where we are. Now, the mission of the committee, it's Legislative Political Committee. And the first sentence is that we're nonpartisan. We stay in contact with our legislative delegations, federal and state departments, federal departments, local agencies. We also compile excuse my voice, a list of key government officials for every year, and we track the legislation at the federal and state level. So that, any questions?
Any questions? Well, I know we're going to, oh, I see a question. Mercy?
Go ahead, unmute.
As far as the lockbox is concerned, since we were a precinct here previously and now that it's not going to happen, is it possible to have one of those lockboxes here in the community?
We do not think so. We do not yet know the location of the lockboxes. That should be known very, very soon. The county board had board approved the locations. That just happened last week. So a lot of this is still up here.
Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you, Pat. You're going to be busy, and I know we're going to hear a lot from you before we're through. Next up on the list is the Maintenance and Engineering Committee with Jackie Graham. Jackie, or
yes, our committee did not meet for the month of August, but a detailed list of various issues has been sent to the General Service Department. But as they begin to regroup, these issues are being addressed. We should receive an update within our next meeting, and we'll have a better idea of what's going on with General Services. And our next meeting will be held by Zoom on Tuesday, September the 22nd at 2 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Next up is the Resident Life Committee with Sam Cushman. And Sam, you're on.
Yeah, how do you do? The Resident Life Committee did not meet in August. Hope said that she would like to have some notes in the minutes about what we've been doing over the year. Generally, during the year, our committee is focused on our regular committee work comprising the pet owners group, birthday angels, welcoming and condolence cards, mission moments, and eating together. We are regularly frustrated with our efforts to discuss EMVs and transportation due to lack of communication with the administration about these topics. An area of particular interest for the future will be a re-examination of racism and social justice within our community. Our next meeting will be held on Wednesday, September 16th at 2 p.m. by Zoom. I might just mention, Walt, when you were talking about members of the Residents' Council, I have received a report that Bob Palat is recovering from his stroke, but is sort of taking time off, both from the pet owners group as well as from the resident life group, the resident council for a short period of time. There was one other thing I was going to mention. No, but that's the main thing. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks for the update on Bob Palat. Next committee is Safety and Security Committee, chaired by new chair Ed Wallace. Oh, comment,
Yeah,
Sam?
the other person I wanted to report on was a new member of the Resident Council, Ron Fair. Ron Fair has had some family issues over the last couple of weeks, and in addition has had some surgery, I believe, this past week, and is recovering nicely, but will be out of commission for a while. I don't know whether that's information that, Walt, whether you have or not.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
Yep.
Next is Safety and Security Committee with new chair Ed Wallace. Ed, let's see, I think you're here.
Good evening, everyone. Safety and Security Committee did not meet in August. Our next meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday, September the 8th at 1 o'clock using Zoom. Managed to touch base with all the members of the committee from last year, and there's, as far as I can remember, everyone is still becoming a member who wants to be a member this year. You've had a talk with Mercy, I think yesterday or the day before, on falls. I've sent the statistics that we had over to her, and we're having a discussion between us since it seems to like falls are part of health and it's also part of safety. And see, I think that's about it. I sent the agenda out, everybody today, so you should have received one, hopefully. At least the elected committee member count the officers. Excuse me. I think that's about it.
Okay, Ed, I wanted to say one thing, that thank you for the agenda, and actually just as a reminder to everyone, please get your agendas a week ahead of your meeting so that I can forward them to the Charlestown administration so that Clara's team sees what is going to happen at your committee meeting. Thank you.
And thank you too. I'll mention one thing that you put in your coming agenda that I thought was of interest. You raised the issue that if we have an emergency, we have to use the phone to report it. We've got to dial about, what is it? Something like 17, 18 digits to file an emergency report. Shouldn't we have something like a 911 in its place? And I think that's a good comment.
Yeah, I started thinking about that the other day when I was trying to call the gym. And I'm just wondering how many people, if you're walking like down Lake Charles and somebody falls down, who actually remembers the 10-digit number followed by a 7-digit number? So I think that's going to be one of the things I just came up with that I'd like to cover is, can Charlestown come up with a simpler number to dial emergency?
Well, I believe that's one of the roles of the pendant.
But we know a lot of people don't carry them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you don't have a pendant, basically, I mean, I have a cell phone, but the trouble is I can't put a 14-digit or 17-digit number for a phone number. So you got to dial, I've got to dial the basic number, and then I've got to enter the emergency number separately, which is a pain. And I want to be able to get one number that covers both of them right away. And it ought to be something with very few different digits in it. Anyhow, that's on my list of things to worry about, and we'll start trying to take care of that next week.
Okay, well, thank you, Ed.
I
Well,
do.
we've heard-
Mercy was next.
Yeah, I have a question on, I have my agenda ready, have had it for a while, but.
Mercy, your
the question
screen is frozen.
Say that again?
Okay,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
now we can. Well, off and on.
Yeah. The questions that we have for our support people, I don't have any questions ahead of time, but I'm sure that when we have the committee meeting, we will have questions. So how do you want me to put that in the agenda? Because I had, what I put is information from leadership staff liaison. I have no questions.
Can I speak to that one? What you do if you have questions for staff that you're gonna, that you won't know, basically you can ask them questions, but don't expect them to answer. Because they will need a month or so to address them. So you can raise the issues then, but then they become part of the next meeting.
Okay, great. And the question is for Ed. You might, one of the suggestions that I have for us is that I have security as one of my priority numbers. I just hit 8 and it goes straight to security. And I use it a lot because every time I see somebody that needs help, that's what I press. I get security right away. I thought.
I have my Apple Watch set up. If I fall down and don't react and turn it off, it'll call security for me. Not everybody can do that. There's various solutions.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions before we move on?
One other solution for Ed is, if you just memorize the Charlestown phone number, and then after it answers, you press 0. If it's off hours, you get security. Otherwise, you get an operator. So you really only need to know the 10-digit number and 0.
That's a good thought. I would chime in just from a communication standpoint that this is a vital life safety issue and should be further explored. At the very least, they could get a direct number to security, a 10-digit number. Some of the other groups here have direct lines in, and then plug that into their electronic system so it'll float around as they answer it.
This is a good example of how different committees share concerns and interests, and may be worthwhile for different committees to work together and talk with each other. It doesn't belong to just one. Communications committee obviously is concerned with communications issues too. Well, thank you. Any more comments or questions? Well, that wraps up the report section. Now we'd like to hear from management, and Heather Sheridan is with us tonight. Heather, what have you got to say tonight? I think let's see, are you muted? I don't hear you at the moment. There we go.
Eugenia, you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
There is a security number that people can use that's in the telephone book. It's 601-8806, and that's only 7 digits.
You can't dial that from a resident phone, and that was one of my biggest.
Our resident phone.
I can from my telephone. I don't know about the cell phones, but the in-house telephone, I do it all the time.
It doesn't work on our side of the campus, and that was one of my first.
What side of the campus do you live on?
We're over at Herbert's Run, and that's a big issue I had, that we shouldn't have to dial all those digits. But
okay, I didn't realize on my side of campus it works. I didn't realize that there was.
And that in and of itself is a life safety issue, because if it's not consistently available, it's not safe for the residents to count on it. And,
and I see Heather taking notes, it looks like.
Yes.
I live in building 9, Heather.
Yours works, good.
That's really good.
Well, Heather, you're on.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Hope affectionately told me last time that I spoke too fast. So I'm going to not do that tonight. Lots of good updates. Thank you for having us, having me. So we are very excited. I think the most exciting thing is that we are getting ready for phase 2 reopening. So there are things that will be opening next week. Life is coming back slowly. As you all know, the last few months have just been very, very difficult. Before I get into phase 2 opening, though, I do want to share the COVID numbers with you guys, just in case you're having questions, and I don't want to forget that. So to date, so we've gotten a lot of feedback on how we give these numbers, and I want to make sure that, and hope I can send these to you. We can email them to you. But to date, we've had 41 residents have tested positive for COVID. That is since the very beginning of all of this. So 41 total have tested positive. 36 of those 41 were in continuing care, and 5 came from independent living. Of the 36 from continuing care, and again, this is to date, 25 of them were symptom-free or have now recovered. Unfortunately, the number of our neighbors that have passed away still remains at 11. And that is always a very difficult number to share. The good news, shifting to good, is that we don't currently have anybody living on the COVID cohort in continuing care. So that's good. That means the folks who were there are doing better and they've moved off. We still, by state regulations, have to maintain that cohort. We have to have a certain number of beds set aside. So that goes into some of the number of units and beds available in continuing care. We have to keep some of them offline to remain, to have that cohort available if we need it. Of the 5 residents to date from independent living who tested positive for COVID from the beginning of this, 4 are now symptom-free, thank goodness, or they've recovered. Unfortunately, we did lose one neighbor in independent living who was also on hospice, so that person has passed away. And again, none of these are new numbers. Luckily, we have not had any additions for the last couple of weeks, which is good news. To date, 70 employees have tested positive for COVID. Again, that's to date, that's total. 3 employees are actively managing their symptoms right now, currently, and 67 are symptom-free or have recovered, thank goodness. We continue to contact trace. I can contact trace in my dreams at this point, and we are training more and more staff every day to contact trace. And what that's doing is allowing those managers and people who serve as manager on duty on the weekends to be aware of what's important when we do contact trace, because they themselves are doing it for us. So that's really important. Okay, so those are numbers. Back to the exciting things, phase 2 reopening. So Mary Evans and the Resident Life team, as you know, our wonderful Resident Life leader, Sherry Parrish, has retired, and you all gave her a wonderful send-off. Thank you for that if you participated in the Zoom call. You are currently looking at the acting Resident Life Director. So I am supporting that team, and it's been really great so far. But that team is really, really busy reopening different components and areas of the community. Some of you who may be group leaders may have already been contacted by Mary Evans. She is reaching out, her and her team are reaching out to all club and group leaders to talk to them about whether or not they want to begin meeting again in person, what rooms they will be using, because we have to make sure that each room is limited number of people. We're limited to the number of people of each of those rooms so everybody can stay socially distanced. So I'm just going to give you high level because I don't want to keep you too long, but Mary's team is all over that. If you have questions, definitely reach out to her. Intermissions will also be beginning to meet. They're going to be starting that next Wednesday, the 9th. So that's really important because those caregivers do need a respite who have been working with folks who are struggling with cognitive decline. Our fitness center and our aquatic centers, you know, they've been opened. They are working on figuring out ways to bring more classes back, personal training back, and balance classes back. So that's exciting. So more to come on that. Mary and her team, we're going to do a lot of communication about this, so don't feel like this is the only time. Mary Evans and her team will be on 972 next Tuesday. Clara and I will be on 972 next Wednesday, going through all of the reopening information. So we'll give it to you so it can go on My Erickson, so you know what's opening, what's not. We're working with Father Leo on worship services to figure out the best way to do that and safest way to do that. So that's also on the radar. Just want to make sure I don't forget any of that. Okay. So one thing about voting, wanted to let you guys know, we did look into getting a lockbox here on campus. It's a lot more to it than we realized. Each lockbox for every election for those ballots has to have a 24/7 guard. Had no idea. So we figured that out. So we weren't able to do it. They wouldn't grant it to us. They wouldn't allow us. I think they're struggling with figuring out how to cover all the boxes, the ballot boxes. So what Pat shared was absolutely accurate, and there is going to be a letter coming out from Mary Evans about how to request your ballot ahead of time. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of how-to on that, which is good because it is complicated and shouldn't be, but it is this year. Really excited about Board of Elections coming on 972, so that'll be helpful. Next week is our board meeting. It's on the 11th of September, and each of you should have a WebEx invite on your calendars from 11 to 11:30 on the 11th of September, so you can join. We understand that the questions have already been submitted, the questions for the board. So thank you, Walt, for that. Please, if you have any questions about format, you can reach out to me, Walt, anybody here in admin. Hope, you guys are awesome. You probably know way more about it than I do. So definitely reach out to them.
One question, Heather, is that I see the meeting is on the 10th at 11 a.m. on Thursday.
Oh, my apologies. You're right. I wrote that incorrectly. So it is September 10th at 11. So it's just 9:10 at 11 a.m. Okay. Thank you. So for the new council members, we'll go around and we'll do introductions, and then there'll be some questions offered to the board. It's a nice opportunity for discussion. Usually it's over some kind of food, but we can't do that now. So, Jean already talked about Benevolent Care Month, but Patty wanted me to do just a reminder. We have the telethon coming. It's very exciting. There's going to be some secret guests. That should be really fun. So tune into that. You should have received your donation letters today, pledge forms to donate to the Benevolent Care Fund on your package shelves. So definitely contribute if you can. Sales wanted everybody to know that we have 13 people planned to move in September. So please continue to be excellent neighbors and welcome your new community members as they move in. As you all mentioned, Dining did their first hot meal delivery. The hotline for Dining still remains, and Ken takes every bit of feedback very seriously. So do not be shy. We appreciate that you all are understanding. We're trying to roll this out. Give us a few days, but if there are needs and issues, definitely raise them. And we are working towards phase 2 for Dining, which will, in some way, we're trying to figure out how to offer 50% capacity in-person dining in the dining rooms. So more to come on that. We're trying to figure it out. There's a lot to this, and staffing is a big component of that. We don't have a date on that just yet. Flu shots. The dean wanted me to share that the flu shots were due to arrive to the medical center this week. They didn't arrive in time. They will come next week, and we are scheduling flu shots. So they can be scheduled for you to come into the medical center and get your shot, or we will be doing door-to-door. We just don't have the plan for that yet, but we're developing that. So for those of you who can come to the medical center, please do that. If your appointment was scheduled for this week, we are rescheduling it because we don't have the supplies. Those are the highlights. Thank you for all your support as we've gone through these last few months.
Thank you. Well, unless there are some final comments from anyone, that wraps up our meeting. And I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.